In today's episode, we're talking about 5 reasons why money should be your number one priority. And no, it's not because you're greedy. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of Money Mindset with Gull Khan. Today, we're talking about something that makes a lot of people deeply uncomfortable. Yes, that's right, money. The thing that everyone says doesn't matter until your boiler breaks down, or the car won't start, or your boss says, I think we need to have a quiet moment. I need to have a quick word. Suddenly, everybody becomes very interested in money. I always find it funny. People spend 3 hours arguing online about whether money can buy you happiness or not, while eating instant noodles because payday isn't until Friday. Right? Money isn't everything. I agree. Money isn't everything. But try paying your electricity bill with positive affirmations. See how that goes. I'm abundant. The electricity company replies, fantastic, but you're still disconnected. That's how life works. Today, I want to explain why I genuinely believe making money should become your highest priority. Not because money is life, not because wealth makes you somehow superior, not because designer handbags certainly make you enlightened. Trust me. I've met people with 8,000 handbags with emotional intelligence of a wet potato. Really, seriously. Money isn't the destination, and it shouldn't be, right? It isn't and it shouldn't be. What does money mean? Money is more important because freedom is important, because choice is important, because peace is important, because independence is important. Money is simply the vehicle you use to achieve those things, right? So it's really important for you to understand. I'm not asking you to accumulate wealth in your house somewhere and lock it up for good. Asking you to work towards money so that you're able to achieve all these things that I mentioned, which is freedom, choice, peace, independence. These are the things we're after. And money is a tool we use to get there. This is very, very crucial for you to understand. I talk about money all the time and I ask you to become best friends with money. Yes, you should, because you need to respect money because by respecting money, you allow it to come into your life. You allow yourself to receive money. But the reason why we want money is not for the designer handbags, it's not for having the luxury car. All those things are great in themselves. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a nice car or a nice handbag. I just want you to understand, even if you don't want the designer handbag or the car or the 5 million pound mansion or something, why money should be a priority because money allows you to have the freedom of choice, the freedom. It allows you to have independence. It gives you dignity. And this is something that's not talked about enough. And people see, people who desire money, who want to make money, as somehow being, talking about this worldly means and this world, and they don't actually understand the importance of having and making and creating money. Yeah. Now, before anyone messages me, no go, Allah provides. Yes, Allah does provide. Absolutely, Allah does provide. But Allah also tells us to tie a camel and then rely on Allah, right? Remember that, right? So don't just stand outside your house saying, if Allah wants me to have dinner, Uber Eats will magically appear. You have to go and work. Seriously, you have to do things. You have to, take action. You work, you strive, you make the effort, you put in the work, you put in the action for Allah to be able to provide for you. You have to create the means so Allah can, provide for you, right? You make the effort first and then you trust Allah. This is really, really crucial. Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, tie a camel and then trust Allah. Faith is not passive. Faith is action. And the Bible says, the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance. Proverbs 21:5. Quran reminds us, man will have nothing except what he strives for. Quran 53:39. Notice something? Both tell us to work. Neither says sit on the sofa watching Netflix, waiting for your millionaire husband or wife to turn up or knocking on your door. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. Reason number one, money gives you freedom of choice. This is probably the biggest lesson of my entire life. Money gives you options. Without money, your choices become very, very limited. You stay in jobs you hate, relationships that drain you, cities you don't like, situations that slowly, literally destroy your soul. People often think that they are making choices, but I found a lot of the times they're making survival decisions. And these two are completely different things. Let's share a bit of my story now. My number one reason for starting a business were my children. When I divorced Ayan's father, my second husband, I was at that moment fully financially dependent on him. And he played the financial card. He was blackmailing me financially into accepting, not to leave him, by the way, and to accept his girlfriend to become his wife because he wanted to marry her. And I refused. And he promised me he will not give me a penny. And did he live up to the promise? He did. Bless him. Yeah. So I realized then that I needed to be on my own 2 feet. I need to be financially independent. I knew that before, but that became incredibly obvious to me then. But I also didn't want to go out and spend 80 hours working trying to have a future with my children. It wasn't, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to be able to see my children grow up. That's the reason why I was a stay-at-home mom. I decided to leave work and concentrate on bringing up these two young souls. So my daughter at the time was 9, my son was 5, and I wanted to make sure that they got to see their mother. And they weren't seeing their father anyway, so they got to see their mother. And that's why I started the business. I wanted to be able to work around my children. I wanted to be able to provide for them in a way that was much better than having a job in the first place, but also be able to work around their hours, being able to pick them up, drop them off school, to take them to activities and their extracurricular activities, be it the piano recital or the oboe that my daughter used to play, or the squash or tennis or whatever the numerous activities they did. So for that reason, that was my number one motivator to make sure I provide for my children and for me to work around them. But then also something else became very important and very clear later on was I realized when I had a limited amount of money, which was when my ex-husband used to give to me to spend on the children, on the school fees and everything else, I had limited means. So when you have money and you have money in abundance, it gives you choice to make whatever decision you want, right? I didn't want when I was building a business and I wanted money when they were little, it wasn't to buy handbags, it wasn't to go on luxury holidays, it was be able to pay for their school fees. For me, private education was really, really important. It may not be for other people, but for me it was. I was really adamant that both my kids were going to go into private schools, and they did. So that was my number one goal. So I made this business and I made enough money to be able to send them to private schools, and they both did really well until recently, of course. And this was my motivating factor. But as I experienced it, I realized how much freedom money actually gave to me. Later on, as I built businesses, I refused to let someone else decide my future. I realized money allows me to make decisions about my future. I don't have to be dependent on my boss or another company or the economy or anybody else. I get to choose. I get to decide how my life turns out because I'm responsible for me. And here's something else I realized. The richest person in the room isn't always the one with the biggest house. It's the one who can wake up tomorrow and decide exactly how they're going to spend their day. And that, my friend, is wealth. Reason number two, money protects your independence. Now, can we normalize something? Needing people and choosing people are two completely different things. I love people. I just don't ever want to need them financially. Because when survival depends on someone else, power shifts. And once power shifts, freedom disappears. I'm going to share my story again and just very quickly because I've shared it multiple times. Both my mum and I left our husbands. Both my mum and I left our husbands because they cheated on us. We were both financially dependent on them at the time we left them. We both chose dignity and self-respect over financial security. But what I know is this was a tough decision for her, and it was a tough decision for me too, some 30 years later. But, but what shocks me is till this day, many women fail to take that step, fail to make that decision. And they know they knew they should, but they think, well, how am I going to make money? How am I going to provide for my kids? How am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to pay for this? And how am I going to pay the mortgage, etc., etc. It's such a common fear amongst women that if they leave their cheating husbands, how will they financially provide for themselves? If you are making your own money and if you're financially independent, you don't have to worry about that. If you want to remain in that relationship and you want to work it out, you want to go through counseling, that's your choice. If you want to forgive your cheating husband, that's your choice. If you want to make the marriage work, that's your choice. But then it's your choice, not a necessity. If you're making this decision about staying in that marriage with the partner being unfaithful to you, purely from the standpoint where, well, how will I provide for myself? This is the key. You need to be able to provide for yourself by yourself. There should be no dependence on anybody else financially. So there's no reason to stay in that relationship financially. You stay in that relationship because you want to. You be with that person because you love them. And I made this decision for myself after my second divorce. I am so adamant about this. I never, ever want to need anyone ever again. Halas, ever. If I choose to be with someone, be it as a friend or as a romantic partner, it would be purely because I desire to be with that individual. I enjoy their company. If it's a friend, we like going out. If it's a romantic partner, it's because I enjoy his company. I enjoy his energy. I respect him and I look up to the individual. There is no way in hell, inshallah ta'ala, I would ever put myself in a position where I have to be with someone because I need the money. Ever. I would rather sleep on the streets. I'd rather go hungry. I'd rather starve to death. That's quite a thing to say. I'd rather starve to death than to be with someone purely for money or any other means. So I'm never going to need anybody. I'm not saying I don't want to be with someone. That's a different choice. So when I will be in a relationship in the future, if at all, I will be with them because I want to be with them, not because I need them or anybody else for that matter. And that's a clear distinction to have. And it's a very powerful place to be. It's a very, very powerful place to be. I can be financially independent and I love my independence. I'm a true Aquarian. I love my independence. That independence was completely obliterated in my marriage. Completely. And I value that so much that it's above everything else now. So this is something that money allows you to have. It allows you to have the dignity to be yourself. For me, independence is key. Independence is everything. And it's tied up with dignity, tied up with self-respect. And I would always choose dignity over money. I would choose rebuilding myself financially brick by brick over money, over financial security. As much as I talk about, money and the importance of money, money is something that you can earn, you can create, you can make. Self-respect is something that you need to cultivate every single day. And you need to have that before money comes in. Keep in mind, if you've listened to me for some time, you'll know this. If you respect yourself, if you love yourself, if you value yourself, money will be attracted to you. Money will come into your life, hands down. Of course, you take action, of course, but that's a different story. That's another conversation. But when it comes to self-respect and dignity, money will follow if you have self-respect and dignity for yourself. I would never compromise on my values. I never compromise on my ethics. I never compromise on dignity. Those three things come hand in hand in all my decisions, be it business or personal. And this is why I'm able to attract money. And this is something that I would want you to understand. If you want to, and if you're a woman listening to this and you're thinking, "Go, this sounds great because you've made it," honey, I didn't make it when I started. I had nothing figured out when I first left my husband. I was close to bankruptcy when I left him. My mother, God, may she rest in peace, and she left my husband. She left her husband, my father. She left her husband in the 80s and she moved back into another country, this one, UK. Had no place to stay, had nowhere to go because my father, the house we had in the UK, he left one house in Manchester. We had multiple properties. He sold all of them, but kept one house on purpose be able to come back to UK. Before my mother came back, he had transferred that house over to my aunt. So my mother had no place to go. Her marital home was gone. She had no place to go, no financial way of providing for her kids, but she still took the bold step and decided that self-respect was more valuable than financial security. And this is what I'm putting to you today. And that was the 80s, right? Come on, people. For a brown Muslim woman in Pakistan to get up and leave her husband because he remarried, and which was so normal and so normalized even until today. So what? He's got another wife. So what? Right? You can see how strongly I feel about this. Independence is key, and money is how you get that key. I always laugh when people say, "I don't care about money." I say, "Really?" When you say, "Well, would you like to send me your, this month's salary if you like?" I don't mind receiving it. No? Thought so. Money doesn't change character. I always say this. Money does not change character. It reveals it. And this is key. Reason number 3. Money allows you to say no. This one is really underrated. Money lets you say no. No. No to toxic clients. No to manipulative employers. No to people who think your kindness is a weakness. And no to relatives who suddenly remember that you're a family member because they need some cash. Funny how that works. Money allows you to have the courage to say no. Hear that again. Money allows you to have the courage to say no. Khalas. Money allows you to have boundaries. Poor boundaries are expensive. Financial boundaries are priceless. In my life, what I've noticed is since I've been able to financially become comfortable, so to say, I don't have to listen to anyone now. I can wear what I want. I can go where I want. I can refuse to go if I don't want to go to a family event. Refuse to meet people. I can just have the option to say no and people not to question me and not to put emotional blackmail, so to speak, onto it. I think we underestimate how much we try to please people when we think our financial well-being is connected to them, be it clients, be it employers, be it family members. But when you don't have to, when you can have the financial strength to not need the money from anybody, that gives a certain amount of power to you. And only those who've experienced it will know what I'm talking about. Far too many people compromise on what they would or wouldn't do purely based on how would people react and how would it impact them financially. They may not want to admit it. Oh, I'm just doing it to keep peace. Really? Why? Whose peace? What peace? And I think this always gets to me, how very little we care about ourselves when money's involved, especially when we are dependent on other people for our money, be it salaries or be it money that we need to run our home. And what I've realized over the years is, regardless how much money I do or don't have, I never want to be in a situation where I agree to do anything because of money, or I associate and connect with people because of money, or even have anything to do with anyone or anything that doesn't align with my values. I'm strong enough now, financially and emotionally, of course, to be able to have the courage to say no and walk away. But this courage, as much as I want to say it has because of my understanding and enlightenment and so forth, a lot of this courage does stem from the fact that I am totally financially independent and I can make my own choices. I'll make my own money. So therefore make my own choices and I can move forward. And I'll give you another example. My daughter, she's making money at the moment. I don't agree with some of her clothes choices. And I said to her, you know, what are you wearing? Like, girl, woman, what are you wearing? And she goes, Mom, I make my own money. I choose my own clothes. And I kept quiet. I said, yes, you do. You're an adult, so I'm going to let you be an adult. I don't agree with the choices, but yeah. So that was an interesting conversation the other way around, but it was interesting. Reason number 4, money gives you the ability to help others. People say money doesn't buy happiness. Maybe not. Maybe not. But it can buy someone surgery. It can feed a family. It can build a school. It can fund an orphan. It can support your parents. It can provide private schooling for your children. It can provide university education for your children. It can help your children. It can support your parents. It can fund a dream. It can give someone hope. Listen to that again. Money that you give to someone can give someone hope. Money in the hands of good people or a good person becomes mercy. And I think we underestimate how powerful that is. How powerful that is. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the upper hand is always better than the lower hand. Meaning, the giving hand, the giving hand is always better. Imagine being able to quietly pay someone's rent. Imagine being able to fund a child's education. Imagine changing lives without posting on Instagram. In my eyes, that is wealth. Now, that is wealth. My biggest motivator outside of my children and beyond their future, of course, is this desire to be of service. And I always say this, without money, you can only do with your physical being, right? So you can, with your hands, whatever you can serve someone, you can support them, you can volunteer, whatever, you can give your time. So without money, you can only give your time and physical presence. But with money, there's so much more you can do. So I always say, I want to help a million people. I want to help a million children. I want to help all these things that I want to do for when I leave this planet. And in my eyes, my legacy will not necessarily be my children. My legacy will be the good work that I've left behind once I depart from this planet. The work I want to do with orphans, especially girls, but both girls and boys, but especially girls. I want girls to have independence. I want every girl, child, to grow up knowing that she can be and do and have anything. She can be absolutely anything. She does not have to conform to what society tells her to do. She does not have to be in abusive relationships. She does not have to please others. She does not have to be, just be a mother and be childbearing and put up with abuse, physical, emotional, and financial, and otherwise, which so many people still go through in this day and age. I want to empower them. I want them to have the ability, the knowledge, the know-how, and the courage to fulfill their dreams, whatever they are. If they want to be an astronaut, they want to be a pilot, they want to be a doctor, they want to be a teacher, they want to run their own business. I want them to have the skills and the ability to do all of that. And that requires money. So guess what? I want to make a lot of money, and to have these institutions that allow these dreams to come to fruition, these children, these girls, as well as boys, to be able to have this bright future. I want to see any child who does not have parents to be able to have the exact same opportunities that children with parents do have. And then at the same time, I want to have those children who are born in poverty to know that they can also become wealthy. They are also able to move forward and out of that poverty. I don't want the poverty cycle to continue. So all these goals that I have, all these ambitions that I have are beyond my children's future, are beyond their current education. Because my son's going to be going to university in a few years. That their education is done. My daughter's already done. So it's now about what else I want to do. And I always say this, the only thing I actually want, by the way, so my biggest passion is fast cars. And I'm looking to build someone with my brother. We're looking to have a project together. So me and him will be doing something together, inshallah. But the money that I want to make beyond it would be, I probably will go and buy a Bentley. And because my father always wanted a Rolls Royce, maybe a Rolls Royce at one point. But that's it. Right? That's the extent of my material goals. I don't need anything else. I'm pretty happy where I am, comfortably living where I am at the moment. I don't have any desire for more material gains. I'm not a big fan of handbags unless it's for an investment, of course. And I'm not that keen on jewelry either, unless it's for investment. I think more for investments. My goal then financial goal would not be that great. Yet, if you ever meet me, if you ever met me in person, you'll see how I light up when I talk about money. You'll see how I want to make so much money. I want to do things and I want to create this business. I want to create that business. I want to do this. I want to do that. Why? Because I want to create systems. I want to be able to create systems that allows us to have abundance of money, abundance. And that money can be channeled in ways that helps humanity. That's my goal. So I always think, very few people have the privilege, and I have the privilege of being able to make money. I'm one of those people that has the business acumen that I'm able to build businesses. I'm able to think beyond certain things. I'm able to fix things up. I'm able to put systems together. I'm able to build a business that makes money. And if I can do that, then it's on me to make sure that I make so much abundance. I create so many opportunities for people who work with me and for those who can benefit from the profit from these businesses as well. I'm going to die soon. Everybody else, right? I've got another what? 20, 30, 40, 50 years maximum on the planet, right? It's not a long time, actually. If you think about it practically, It's not a long time at all. So what could I possibly do with the money while I'm on the planet? How many times am I going to, stay in a five-star hotel? How many, Michelin five-star, 5-star Michelin restaurants am I going to dine at? And I don't have that desire either. But when I think of the things I can do for all those people who are not in the financial position or not in the privileged position to make money, my eyes light up. I just think it's such a privileged place to be, and it's an opportunity that I can't miss. And that's what motivates me. And that's what keeps me going. So my goal, yes, I talk about money, and I think everyone should be thinking about money, but not just for yourself. What money can you make? And how can that money benefit those around you and even those who are far away from you? Because if you can, that's the most amazing feeling in the world. Reason number 5, money buys peace. Listen to that again. Money buys peace, not happiness, peace. And they're different. They're different. Money cannot stop heartbreak. Money cannot stop grief. Money cannot stop illness. But money removes unnecessary suffering, for sure. You don't lose sleep wondering how you're going to pay the mortgage. You don't panic when the washing machine breaks down. You don't spend 6 months debating on whether you should go on a holiday. Money removes pressure, and this is key. Money removes pressure. Pressure steals peace. I lost my mom many, many years ago. Money couldn't change that. Money couldn't remove that grief. But there are many, many problems in life that money generally can solve and has solved for me. So let's stop pretending otherwise. The goal is not to become obsessed with money. The goal is to become so financially secure that money really needs to occupy your mind. Imagine that imagine checking your bank account. You never have to check your bank account before you buy groceries. Imagine never having to think how you're going to provide or help your children just because you want to. And imagine thinking that you can do, waking up and you can do whatever you want. Your bills are covered, and that if you need to give money to somebody, you're able to. If someone needs help, you can help them. If you need to provide for someone, you can. All of that is peace. Final thoughts. If you listen to any of my podcasts for a length of time, you'll know something about me. You'll know I never chase money. I chase freedom. I chase independence. I've chased the ability to make my own decisions. Money just happened to be the ticket. Not because money is everything, but because freedom is everything. And this is why money is so important to me. I'll leave you with this. The Quran says, Allah does not change the conditions of people until they change what is within themselves. Quran 13:11. Your wealth journey starts inside, not in your bank account, not in a job, not in your postcode, inside. When you change the way you think, your actions change. When your actions change, your results change. And when your results change, your entire life changes. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Money Mindset with Gull Khan. If today's episode resonated with you, then please subscribe and leave a review and share with someone who you think needs to hear this message. Remember, don't chase money because you want more stuff. Build wealth because freedom is one of the greatest gifts you can ever give yourself. And of course, the people around you, the people you love. Until the next time, keep growing, keep believing, and keep creating a life that feels as good as the inside as it looks on the outside. Take care and Assalamu alaikum.